I had that video that I wanted to pull up. So Nick, if you're able to pull it up, did you find it? Go ahead. Oh, wait, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine.
No
let
way.
the audio play. Go ahead.
So cute. That looks so funny. That's so funny.
Okay. Has that been your experience on dates with women?
I sent that video to my best friend, but no.
Okay. All right.
Do you feel like who invites you should pay, or like whoever is the one that like comes up with the plan? Because I kind of feel that way in general.
I feel like that's just kind of courtesy.
Like if I were to
we talked
invite
about
my
this
man,
before.
I'd be like, okay, like I could pay. Like if like
Yeah, I think that if
I invited you somewhere,
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I think that if I were to take the time to plan out a date and decide what we were doing and where we were going, I'd definitely feel obligated to pay.
In your last
Sure.
relationship, who paid for the most of the things? Would you
In
say?
my last relationship, my ex-fiance paid for most of the things,
Okay.
I'd say.
I also feel like in lesbian relationships, there's always someone that is a little more the masculine partner and a little more the feminine partner.
I do
wouldn't
agree
you
with
say?
that, but in most of my relationships, and all of them actually, I've been the more feminine one, and in most of my relationships, I've paid for more and taken on that role.
Interesting.
Really, we won't linger too long on the who should pay debate, but you mentioned that, well, whoever asks ought to pay. So going around the table, who agrees with that? Whoever asks, they should pay for the date.
I think that's
I don't
fair.
think like ought to, but like if I don't know, if I invite my man, like I would just
Well, let's
be
say
okay
first
with
dates.
paying.
Let's talk
first date. No,
First dates.
a man got to pay for the first
Yeah.
date.
Man got to pay
Yeah.
for the first date.
If he's
Yeah.
pursuing me
Yep.
and taking me out,
If I'm on a first date
Yeah.
and they look at me like, pay this, I'm walking out. I'm
You're-
walking out.
That's
No.
the-
You're walking out.
you won't hear from me
I'm
again.
done, I'm done, and you can stay and figure that out
I
for
agree.
yourself. That's not my business to handle. Like, sorry.
Wait, so just going around the table, I just want to get everybody's answer. Who should
The guy
pay?
definitely.
Okay.
The man.
I answered mine.
Wait, was that always
Well, you
though?
could just restate your.
Well, yeah, you know how I feel. But was
Wait.
Cindy?
Well, I want to get everybody's
Oh,
answers.
sorry.
I wouldn't say.
I was just clarifying.
Not always. I feel like once you guys get to know each other, we could like go split half and half. But I feel like the guys I've dated, they've always wanted to pay for me.
Me
They
too.
would never be like, oh, like they would
too.
never let me pay.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
If I planned something and I said I wanted to go here, I want to bring you here, and I want to do this, I'm gonna pay for that. But any other way,
Sure.
it's on you.
Yeah.
Nicolette.
So I'm not gonna pay. The man should pay, whether it's the first date or the 10th date, unless we're like dating for a while, like exclusively. Then
Yeah.
like we can split sometimes.
Okay. Sure. Mia, what about you?
I think on the first date, yes, the man should pay. I also think that if it is just a long-term relationship, then yes, you guys can share payments and share that. I think that's just the overall, just you don't, I'm not a housewife. I
Okay.
can afford my bills, so.
Yeah.
Do men like when you kind of like treat them sometimes? You're like, I got you, babe.
No, not really.
No?
I don't.
They don't.
I mean, I don't know. I'm married, so it's not like I'm going on
Yeah.
dates and stuff. But
That's
I mean,
true.
maybe if they're broke.
I differ a little on this.
I feel like that could be cute once in a while. Like,
Wait,
a
why
girl
don't
be
you
like,
don't
I
go
wanna
on
treat
dates?
you.
Why do you not go on dates?
because I'm married, and my wife would object to that. You know? She probably wouldn't take
wouldn't be
kindly to
fond
it.
of
I thought y'all were making content together. I'm confused.
I know. I appreciate
said
the
okay.
offer. But I must decline.
Making
So I
content
go like my wife and I go to dinner. But I wouldn't call that like a date. I'm not going to go. I'm not like picking up a chick.
But
down the
making
street.
content together doesn't mean dating.
Well, my wife and I don't make content together either. I kind of do my podcast.
It's like I'm offering like a work. You're like my work partner.
You and I are work
Yeah,
partners?
we're work partners.
Again, I mean, listen, I'm going to have to clear it with
wife.
my domestic partner back home. I don't think she's going to take very happily to it.
Yeah.
But even when we were dating, my wife would offer to pay, but I don't like it. I feel it feels kind of gay. Yeah. It feels like I'm the man, and even at points in my life where I haven't had a lot of money, I still feel like the man should hold the door, hold
Yeah.
the car door, hold the restaurant door,
Yes.
pull the seat out, and pay
Well,
for
that's
the bill.
just chivalry. That's
Who says it's
it.
dead? Not me.
Ben just,
No,
that's hot,
romance
but
is not it.
Okay. And then, so on the conversational thread we were having, I think it was one of you two who said, well, whoever asks, they should pay, right?
yeah.
Okay. And so who agrees with that? Maybe just show of hands. Whoever asks should pay. Or you may
Is it a long-term relationship? Like,
no,
are we
first
talking
date.
about
First date. Yeah.
Oh, first
Man.
date?
First
That's
date.
a man. Sorry.
Man.
You gotta
Man.
clarify,
Man.
Brian.
Okay.
But I'm not asking a man on a date.
Yeah, I'm not
So,
asking a man on a first date.
Well, yeah, that's my kind of rebuttal to the whoever asks should pay, because it sort of
Yeah.
ignores the fact that in the vast majority of
I will
circumstances,
never ask
the
a man on
the
a
man
date.
is
Yeah.
gonna. Okay, so there's a couple threads I wanted to just wrap on here quick, but so all of you, it sounded like, want the man to pay for the first date, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Except, well, you don't really date men, so you didn't weigh in
Well,
on
you
it.
might.
On it,
Probably
too.
not.
If you did though, would you want the man to pay?
Not necessarily.
Fair enough. But you, just a question for you. You don't do adult content at all, do you? No. Okay, but all besides Madison and Michael and myself,
For
everyone
now.
else here does do adult content to varying degrees of nudity, I guess you could say. My question for you then is, you have a rather traditional expectation of men, but please don't be offended. I would argue that being involved in pornography is rather non-traditional. So how do you reconcile expecting traditional treatment from men when you guys are engaged in a very non-traditional occupation and behavior?
It's work. So for
Okay.
me, originally, I actually worked in the tech industry for 2.5 years, and I was doing OnlyFans on the low. Naomi's not my legal name. I just did that because I didn't want to get fired, because I was
Okay.
pretty high up in a tech company.
Sure.
And then I just decided one day, I was like, why am I making people millions of dollars when I can make myself millions of dollars?
Well, I'm not asking you to justify why you do the work that you do.
But, like-
I'm asking why you have. I would assume that you would not categorize yourselves as traditional women.
By no means.
My point was, like, I was traditional, and no one knew
What?
about this other side of
Sure.
me, right? So
Well,
like,
how long have you been doing OnlyFans?
like a year.
Okay. So my question is that none of you are traditional women, yet you have very traditional expectations of men. How do you reconcile that?
I think for myself, I've been in long-term relationships alongside my job, and how I reconciled with that was simply being very upfront with the realities that I was going to always make more income in that relationship. And for that reason is why I say with long-term relationships, I wouldn't expect that man to pay for everything. And I know that you agree that men should be paying for most everything.
Yeah.
And I do agree that depending on the type of circumstances of that relationship and who they are, that can happen as well. So my relationship to traditional relationships is not exactly as they're seeing it out as, but I know for some, a lot of girls like to expect a traditional relationship, but reality hits, we're not traditional girls. We do OnlyFans, we do all these other things.
But you could just stop.
Yeah, we
Right,
could.
and then you could just
completely.
do the traditional thing and find this, like, rich
This
Mac Daddy,
provider
and
man.
yeah, and he can pay for your hair, and then you don't do the other thing.
Well, I do want to go around the table on this, because that was a question that was posed generally, but to all of you. So Cindy, how do you reconcile?
I think the man should definitely provide in a relationship, and it
So
doesn't
then
even
the
matter
woman
about
should not be involved in pornography.
I'm not even involved. Like, I don't make porn. I don't make like, if you subscribe
Cindy?
to me, I'm not. I actually don't. And Pornhub actually reached out to me last time because you said that in the video that went viral. I'm not on Pornhub. I don't do that kind of content. But going back to the question, like, yeah, I think the guy should provide. It's been like that. The man chases after the girl.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been like that. It's always going to be like that. And it doesn't matter if you do OnlyFans, if you're a sexy model on the internet. It's not always what it seems. Once you get to know the actual woman and talk to her, like we are right now, then you'll actually get to know her. It's not always like sexualizing a woman because she's like, she's hot and like,
Oh, well, I'm not sure if that really, okay.
Sorry, I was going to say I kind of align with what you're trying to say is it's kind of a mask per se. I don't like saying that, especially on camera, but our identities as these girls, as adult girls, is that we are these super hypersexual beings, and that's not always the reality.
Yeah.
That's not our
Yeah.
actual identities. Some of us don't
Yeah.
even have the same names. So I think that's where it kind of carries out into our personal lives, and our private lives are very traditional as opposed to the untraditional ways that we present ourselves
The
online.
persona online.
But because
Yeah.
of that, we obviously, like myself, I include that into my relationships. There is a reality for myself, for others, perhaps not.
But is it really possible to like split yourself up into two people? I mean, you could have a stage name and a real name, and in your stage persona, you're one way, and in your real life, you're another way. But you're one person.
Not
so,
two different
you
people,
can't.
just the perception of how people see us online versus how we are
But
in
I
real
think
life.
that's to Brian's point. When you're dating someone,
With two different identities.
you're both of those people, right? And I guess you're going to be more one or the other, or you're going to be an individual.
Exactly.
So the stage persona might start to infringe upon the reality, and so would that change your expectations of the kind of guys you'd be dating, or how you would behave with them?
For me, my ex was the only person I ever made content with, like, in that way, like, to the furthest extent of content, I guess. No one else have I ever made content on that level with. Everything else is just me.
It's so crazy to think about the way we all talk today. Is ordinarily what you'd be saying is we made love, but we're such a capitalistic, materialist, decadent society. Now you say, my ex, he and I, we were so close, we made content together. It was the deepest content ever. It's just something's really gone wrong in our society, hasn't there? Because really, you should just be making love and making babies.
No,
with
I
these
agree.
guys, right?
I agree, but the money is something that I really hopped on and wasn't willing to walk away from.
If it's very tempting.
If I can support myself and the people in my life, that's all I ask for.
Can I say something? I think that I don't even do content or anything, but I think we should treat people that do the same as we treat actors. Like, we don't judge them for the movies or the roles they play in movies or anything because the money is good.
Do we not? I
No.
mean, they're a little bit different. Historically speaking, actors have been considered in the same class as like criminals and prostitutes.
Well, I
Yes.
think in my personal
Marilyn
opinion,
Monroe.
Yeah,
I don't.
sure.
Pamela
I don't look at a role my
Anderson.
favorite actor plays and say I don't like this role, so I don't like this person. It's kind of just like they're doing it for the money and they're doing it for the content. And I
Yeah.
think it's the same with OnlyFans.
No, sure. I understand that there are like these. You put on a mask and you do it.
no.
So what do you think about
Yeah,
that?
what do you think, Brian?
Well, look, let's. I think you're trying to make a point of something in a broader sense, but I'm talking on an interpersonal relationship level. So, for example, you could have, and I'll open this up to the whole panel, but I'll start with you. Would you object to a man who perhaps he has actually no issue with a woman being engaged professionally with producing adult content? He has no problem with it, no judgment of it. However, when it comes to his personal life and who he chooses to partner with and date, he does object to dating someone who has nude photographs of themselves on the internet for whatever reasons those may be. He's not outwardly judgmental about it, but when it comes to his personal preferences and who he wants to date, marry, whatever it may be, he does not want to date a woman who does OnlyFans or does porn. Do you object to that preference?
No, I think everyone
Okay.
has different preferences, and everyone should have the right to decide that for themselves.
Okay.
But then that man would be judging.
No, that's a
No.
personal preference. There's a pool for everybody. That's what
Yeah.
I believe. If
Yeah.
there's a group of guys who's not okay with adult content, like, then that's not the guy for me. So it's cool. Like, you don't want to date me, I don't want to date you just
Yeah.
as much. That's how I see it.
I think the right one for you guys will come to a common ground together in the end. But right now, I mean, we're all single. We can all really do whatever we want without the feedback of a partner.
Sure. Is it possible though that if you didn't do what you do, that you could get a better husband someday? Is it possible that the kind of guy who you might want to marry is the kind of guy who wouldn't want his wife to be, in the sexual industry?
Not for me.
I think it depends on your standard of quality and what better actually is. So if you identify as better in a man would be somebody who is completely religious or is completely conservative or somebody who is completely against pornography in general, then better might be very, very large and different.
Well, what if it's even more
from-
basic? It's just like a guy who, he's more faithful to you, he's better at raising the kids, he makes more money, he is more
What
responsible.
does that have to do
If
with
I met
sex
the
work,
right guy
though?
and he didn't want me to do this anymore and we were going to be together, I'd quit.
You'd quit,
I'd
yeah,
be done.
yeah, of
I'd be
course.
done. But that's not where I'm at in life right now. Like, I respect that. I think everyone, that would be hard as a partner watching your partner online and for everyone else to see. Like, I don't doubt that that's hard.
Is it possible, though, that what you're doing now is preventing you from meeting that guy? Because that guy maybe wouldn't even look at your kind of content, right? So is it possible that if you quit right now, you say, I want, it's like dress for the job you want, right? You say, I'm going to quit right now and I'm going to go do something else and I'm going to go put myself in places where I'm more likely to meet that guy, Mr. Right, who wouldn't want me to be doing this stuff. Are we not reversing the order of the way things might happen?
I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you to a sense, but I think the guy for me is going to be the guy for me in the end, and I don't need to change what I'm doing right now for him.
I think
yeah. No,
I
please.
think for a lot of us, at least from my sense, is I prefer a partner who's understanding and with transparency. So if they're willing to understand the reasonings that I chose to do my job and chose my occupation and have continued it for so long, then I think that's the perfect partner for me. Not everybody is going to understand, and not everybody that does understand is perfect for me, but eventually one day, just as she's saying, is that person may come around and that might be the perfect fit. But I don't think that everybody is possibly perfect, even if they don't appreciate or are accepting of what I've done in the past. So for that reason, I think it just comes around. Obviously, yes, if we all lost our jobs and we all chose to leave it, yes, there'd be a larger percentage of men or women who are willing to be with us. Obviously, she doesn't perform this type of work. But regardless, I think as well, just because we continue to do this to today, then I think most of us would prefer somebody who is understanding and compassionate for our decisions.
Because you're putting the job before the larger pool potentially of guys
Completely.
that you
And
could. Yeah.
I think it's also because that can show more of a moralistic value as opposed to the simplicity of, oh, so she left it, great, now I can finally hop in because now she's out of that system. Not necessarily that's what you're saying, but
No,
for
it's
the
not. I
instance
guess it
of-
would. If you quit, it would probably reflect a change in your point of view about it.
Completely.
And it's kind of what I don't know. When I was a younger man, back in my youth, I was more of a derelict and did all sorts of things I shouldn't do. And mercifully, I married my wife, who's much more virtuous than I am. But that required me to become a little bit more virtuous. Like I actually wasn't really deserving of my wife. And, so I worked on certain things and like partied less and, like stop behaving badly for the most part. And so it's not like we're all just static, right? It's not all just like, well, the man for me is going to take me exactly as I am. Like, I don't know, I'm not perfect. I got to work on all sorts of things every single day. So wouldn't the same be true for all of you?
Yeah,
Completely.
100%.
I suppose. I think one thing that was interesting was like you said something about being in the right place or different places if we weren't in this work. I just don't agree with that because I do look at it as work. I think all of us look at it as work.
Yeah.
So like
It's just
yes,
a certain type of work.
Pool wise, yes, there's a different dating pool for us as sex workers, but I disagree that we wouldn't be like you're religious, right?
Pretty religious. yeah.
Okay, so like do you think sex workers like they're contradicting themselves by being religious? I'm not personally religious, but
No, well, our Lord did dine with prostitutes, and but that's not an endorsement of prostitution, right?
Okay.
So I don't know. I think probably what often it could be hypocrisy. It could be that you say one thing and preach another, and you don't really believe what you're saying.
Okay.
If you're, say, a prostitute or a porn actress, and you say you're Christian. But what it probably more likely is you recognize something in your mind has changed, and you recognize that there's something good here that I should follow. But the body is kind of slow to follow, and you like the money, and you're kind of used to doing this, and there's a fear of what might happen next, and you're not even totally convinced, and because we're not just brains floating in outer space, and we're not just bodies, as unfortunately the sex industry would portray us to be, but we're both of those things, and so it creates a bit of a cognitive dissonance, and then one is going to win out over the other, and one hopes it would be the better alternative.
So I guess that's another thing that I wanted to ask you too for clarification. So if we were to end sex work, right, for us, if I were to quit, would I have to be like, oh, that was a bad idea, like I regret it, like, or could I possibly just be like, it doesn't make me happy anymore?
Yeah, you could quit and say, I'm just quitting because, you know, it's Tuesday and I feel like quitting.
Right.
You could do that. That's fine.
Okay.
I suspect that what would happen over time is as you know, people are always moving. You're always growing. You know, you grow or you die. And so you'll continue to think things and your thoughts will change. And very likely, if you are impelled to leave that kind of work because you have just an inclination that it might be better for you if you get out, probably over time you're going to look back and say, you know, I probably shouldn't have done that. Not the proudest thing I've ever done, but, you know, that's why pencils have erasers, and I'm very glad that I can be absolved of my sins and we move on. All sin and fall short of the glory of God. That's probably what would happen. But if the first thing you got to do is just say, like, I don't want to do it, I'm out, it's yucky, whatever, like, cool, that's fine.
But does it have to be yucky? That's my point.
Or
could
not
you just
even
be
yucky.
like, I'm
Yucky's
just,
too
I just don't
strong.
want
Yucky's too
because I said I'm not
condemnatory.
religious. I was raised Roman Catholic, but I'm not religious.
Yeah.
So
I was an atheist for 10 years, so you know,
Okay.
you don't have to convince me.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, that's fine. If there's just like some little inclination in you that says like, something's just not quite sitting right here, yeah, just follow that. You don't have to reason about everything. You know, you can just kind of follow your gut. Your gut is often going to lead you in a decent direction, and then you apply reason after that, and you say, okay, was that a good choice or a bad choice?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, because like the stigma behind sex work is like, it's bad, right? Everyone just says like, it's bad, but
It's not good. It's not. I wouldn't say it's good, but
I think it's good.
do you really though? Or, I mean, the way you ask the question makes me suggest perhaps you have some doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, I worked in corporate, I had that lifestyle, and I compare that to how I live my life now. I'm way happier now, and people don't like to believe that. I think it makes them really mad when I say that, but like my lifestyle now, like I'm my own boss. I'm not constantly shit on by other people. I mean, I'm constantly I'm constantly shit on by other people, but I'm happy. I'm like genuinely happy.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
You know, I do believe you that you feel that way, at least a lot of the time. The thing is, if that weren't the case, then bad things wouldn't be tempting. Like, of course, bad things give you a sort of euphoria, actually, for a period of time. But the longer term consequences of that, like, for instance, forestalling meeting Mr. Right, and, you know, perhaps forestalling having a family, or carrying with it some kind of stigma that is natural and is probably never going away as long as society continues to exist. You know, these are difficult choices that if there weren't temptation, no one would do it. Right?
I appreciate that.